When I was a young man out of high school, I was involved in a community service project, and we were discussing some of the needs that had been brought to us. A man had come to us and requested some financial aid. He had an immediate financial need. And the chairman of this committee, he seemed doubtful, and he said, he says, I know this man who's requesting money from us. I've been in his home. He's got a nice TV. He drives a nice car. He's got nice stereo equipment. And it seems to me that he's not doing all he can to come up with the cash he needs, and I'm uncomfortable helping him further. And I thought, whoa, that's harsh. I guess his chairman noticed that I was uncomfortable, and he turned to me and he said, Darrell, give a man a fish. And I was dumbfounded. I pictured every possible, flounder, salmon, and I guess they noticed that I was a little confused. And he said to me, Darrell, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. And everybody in the group went, yeah, ooh, okay. And I thought about that, and as soon as I was starting to register that, he said, well, let's move on. And I thought, wait a minute, wait a minute. First of all, where does he get the idea that maxim says, don't give a man a fish? And if we're going to take that road and not give him a fish, didn't the maxim just say, teach a man to fish? And we're just going to move on. Now, I'm asking you, where are you in relation to this maxim? There's actually four sides of it, aren't there? Give a fish, receive a fish, teach a fishing lesson, receive a fishing lesson. You will be on both sides of that maxim this week, in the next couple days. Somebody will ask you for something, you will ask someone else for something, and the manner they deal with it, or the manner you deal with it, will have a profound impact on your life. I'll give you an example. When I was just first married, I was talking with two of my good friends, Dave and Brad. And they said, hey, you know what let's do? Let's go out to dinner with our wives. How about that? Now, when you're just recently married and you're so poor, that sounds like such a great idea. That sounds like such a great idea. And so we drove up and met the three couples at the Oaks, and it was great. It was a wonderful evening. Great food, great conversation, perfect setting. It was early fall, and the foliage was just starting to change. So we had agreed that it would be three separate checks. And it came time for the waitress to bring our checks, and she set down the three checks. And I reached for my wallet, and no wallet. It was gone. It wasn't there. And I knew immediately it was on my dresser at home. And I just had that tense feeling in my throat, horrid embarrassment, And so I looked at my two friends, and I picked one, and I tapped on the table, and I said, Brad. He said, what? I said, Brad, come out in the hall with me. He says, what? And Dave said, hey, what's going on? And I said, nothing, we'll be right back. So we got up and went out in the hall. He said, Darrell, what? I forgot my wallet. I forgot it. I'm sorry. It's gone. It's not here. And I said, I just need you to pay my check, and I'll get you the money when we get home. And he said, Darrell. He says, we're not kids anymore. We're grown-ups. We can't make stupid mistakes like this. You got to grow up. You can't. And I just felt this small. I thought, I can't believe it. He's going to chastise me. And I said, Brad, look, I'll bring you the money tonight. I'm sorry, it was an honest mistake. And he said, Darrell, it wasn't an honest mistake. You need to be grown up. And I'm telling you this story right now, I can feel the horror of having him chastise me in the hallway at the Oaks. And he stands there like this, and he's shaking his head, and he said, he said, my wife's not going to like this. And I said, you're kidding me. I'm not asking you to buy my car. I just need $20 for an hour. And he says, well, let's go back in there. So we walked back in, and we got to the table, and there's people in the restaurant, and Dave says, hey, what's the matter, guys? And Brad announces to the table, Darrell forgot his wallet. Now, I felt this big, and I just wanted to die. I mean, I'm getting short of breath telling this story. Now, it's interesting to me, whenever I tell this story, people know what happened next. They instinctively know what happened next. Dave looked up and said, Darrell, I've got it. No problem. I'll take care of it. And I just, thanks, Dave. And Brad, interestingly, dropped it like a hot rock. Forgot it, like I had never brought it up. And I sat there and looked at my two friends, listening to the conversation. I'm looking at Dave like my hero. I'm looking at Brad now and I'm thinking, you're not my friend anymore. We got out, we finished our evening, went out to the parking lot, and I went to Dave and I said, hey, thanks so much. I'm so embarrassed. I'd like to bring you the money tonight, pay you back. He said, Darrell, I'm serious. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. It was a great evening. You know, don't worry about it. I don't want your money. And I said, well, I wasn't sure I wanted his help because one friend had made me feel small, and I didn't trust him. And so I thought about it, and I said, well, how about this? My wife and I will take you to dinner out to dinner sometime soon. And he said, that's great. That sounds great. Let's do that. That's not the end of the story. I noticed over the next few months, my friendship with Dave and his wife grew. We did spend time with them. My friendship with Brad withered. And he noticed. And he came in, it was weeks later, came to me and said, I hope that there's not a problem between us over that incident at the Oaks. And I said, Brad, you humiliated me in public. And he said, I was right. He looked at me and said, I was right, Darrell. It's immature to forget your wallet. I said, Brad, do we have to go over this again? It was an honest mistake. I said, are you telling me that that's a mistake you couldn't make? He said, of course I could. Of course I could make a mistake. And I said, well, I hope I'm there when you make that mistake. And he looked at me and said, and you would tell me what I told you, and you would be right. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but I have learned since, and I think most of you would agree with me, I don't believe him. Because I've learned that people who dish it out usually can't take it. I'm guessing that if I could have been there when Brad tripped up, and I could have called him on the carpet, I just like to think he would have cried.